Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today we're going to be recapping episode 66 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role. I enjoyed this one. It was a slightly longer episode. It was about 5 hours, so this recap is no doubt going to be a little bit longer, even though I've been trying to make every single one of them shorter. But there's just a lot going on lately. Lots of new characters, new stuff to talk about. So, without further ado, let's begin. Start in Zephyrah. Orem says it's a sight for sore eyes. Orem asks FCG if they're going to have trouble traveling around. It's a bunch of hilly areas. They say that Fern will help them out if they do have some issues. Chetney sniffs the air and smells very earthly scents. Firewood burning and what seem to be corn husks. At this moment, a massive wind of gust blows through. Strength saves all around. Orem, Fern, Ashton, and FCG all catch themselves and aren't moved by it. Laudna, Chetney, and Imogen are thrown off their feet and dragged toward the edge of the cliff. At this moment, they see what looks to be about two shadowed figures appear behind them. They rush over, or the others rush over to the ones who were thrown away. They see people on gliders stop behind the party. 3 more people come up from behind and ask what the party's business here is. Orem sees them, and they see Orem, and their aggression ends. Orem recognizes them. One is a half-elven woman named Maeve, who hugs Orem. It's either Maeve or Meave. I'm pretty sure it's Maeve. It's his it's his sister-in-law. Orem introduces her to the party. Maeve tells Orem that she is resting, and it's good to see him. She says people got scattered after the fight. Orem asks if Lita is back. Maeve says that she is, and she's taking care of the Tempest. Orem says he'd like to go see the Tempest if she's up for it. FCG asks if Maeve can fly. She says not in this form, but she can take a different form to do so or use a flying device like the gliders from before. The party say the wind here is strong, but Maeve says no, that was just her. She knocked them down. The party look for ley lines, but there isn't anyone nearby, no nexus points. Orem asks if the magic here is messed up. Yes, long-standing wards are down, and some gliders need to be re-enchanted. Orem asks if they're still in contact with Whitestone. No, and they're trying to fix that. But those who can communicate aren't able to get through. They're having some issues, much like the party. They ask if anyone was shunted away. Some were shunted around the continent, and some stayed at the dig site and fought. Orem asks how her mother is doing. Maeve says that her mother is doing fine, and so is Orem's mom. They'll see her after they see the Tempest. She brings the party there. Or she's going to take the party to the Tempest. FCG asks for a family tree. Derek and Nell are his in-laws, parents-in-law. Maeve and Lita are his sisters-in-law, with another sister that we haven't met yet. They are triplets, and Will, Orem's husband, was the younger brother of them. Alma is Orem's mom, and the father wasn't around. The party walk through Zephyrah and see the village is almost built and shaped into the area around it, almost like druidic magic was at play for most of it. Orem gets waves and nods as they walk through. As they walk, Maeve says he's with some weird people. Orem says it's wild out there. Maeve says Lita told her about some strange happenings in Whitestone and looks to Laudna. Orem says it takes time to get used to her, but she's got a good heart. They eventually reach Keyless place, and Maeve goes inside to inform them. She goes in and a few seconds pass, and 3 people burst out the door. A half-orc, a male human, and a female half-elf. The half-orc was female as well. There's a female elf who looks like Maeve, but there are differences between them. This is Lita. She steps forward and welcomes the Bell's Hells to Zephyrah. Orem says it's always nice, but wishes it wasn't so heavy as to their reunion. She asks if they're here to see the Tempest. Orem tells her yes, and says they saw her at the battle before everything went wrong. Lita tells them that she's in a weakened state. Imogen asks if they've tried greater restoration on her. Lita says they've tried everything. There are some options, however. She introduces the others standing next to her as her guardians, who look very intensely behind the party. Imogen asks if it's scary being here without the wards. Orem says it isn't, or he isn't used to everyone being on edge. The party then head into Keyleth's place. The house feels like the inside of a tree that's been shaped into a home. Lita pushes open a door to a bedroom. Inside the bedroom, there are a few art pieces that here depicting history, mainly of the Chroma Conclave, and a giant stone elemental standing over the city of Vasselheim. Laying in the bed is Keyleth. Lita tells her that Orem is here. She sits up and says there's much to talk about. Orem bows and the rest of the party follow. They step forward and they can see her wounds remain from the fight. There's no blood, but the cuts seem fresh and have a bright red flesh exposed, which is nasty. Keyleth asks for her staff. Lita gets it for her. She tries to stand, but the party tells her to stay down. Keyleth apologizes for not looking her best. Orem says she's grateful for her being alive. Orem asks what happened. She says the assassin used the same toxin that was in the village once before. There's no historical precursor for it. Last time she only had small wounds. She recovered last time after finding a remedy. It was too late for those who have already died, unfortunately. The remedy was a blue perennium flower. It only grows in cursed lands. They could only make enough to heal those wounds, the small wounds that she had. They sent some to go look for more, but they haven't heard back yet. It only grows in a handful of places. The Grey Valley is the safest place. They grow in places of strife. The group that was sent was led by Bernie, which I imagine is the third sister in the triplets. And I don't know if that name is correct. It was very quick and they only said it the one time. So if that's wrong, someone could correct me, please. I would like to know the real name for this triplet. She feels like she should be the one making the trip, her being Keyleth. Imogen says that Keyleth has done enough. Keyleth says that she's never felt like she's done enough. FGG asks if it cures the wounds and heals them, or just removes the toxin but doesn't heal it. It rejuvenates the wounded area, but it doesn't help those who are lost. 3 others also need the remedy. The party asks how many were lost in the fight. During the fight, they lost 24 people. Orem asks what was the last thing she remembers. She remembers seeing Vax and vows to destroy them for what they did. She promises the enemies will leave no more pain in their wake. FCG says Liliana no, but the rest yes. Imogen isn't sure. Liliana didn't help them during the fight. Imogen wonders if the white light was controlled by someone at the dig site. She couldn't control it when she did it the first time with the party, but maybe Liliana caused the white light and sent everyone away. Laudna sees Keyleth looking at Imogen and tries to see if Keyleth is aware of Imogen's connection to Liliana. With an insight of 8, she can't tell that, but she can see that she's half present in mind and half elsewhere. Imogen asks Orem if they should tell her in his mind. Orem then says Imogen is related to Liliana Tumlet. Imogen then says not what she was thinking, back in his head. Keyleth says that she suspected that. Orem vouches for Imogen. Imogen said that she never really knew her. Imogen in Keyleth's mind says that she wants to help. Keyleth then replies saying if there's any sign of betrayal, pauses for a second, and says this is bigger than us. Keyleth sits up and says they need to rally. She says that everything's been tangled up by design. Big cities and small cities are both confused, and the Ruby Vanguard are trying to use this fear to bolster their ranks. She wants to go to Vasselheim and speak with others. She doesn't want to put so much on Orem, but asks if he could deal with the lost group of volunteers looking for the remedy. Orem says he's never been so angry, and it doesn't matter about that, it still needs to be done. Keyleth says anger is challenging to deal with, but he must know when to use it and where to use it. She says that she's been angry for 30 years and needs Orem to find a place for her to use it. Orem says he'll do everything he can to make it right. Keyleth asks if the party is with him. They say yes. Keyleth says then when she recovers, together they will rain down the fury of Exandria on these shitheads. Lita tells the party whatever they need will be given to them before they head out. Imogen asks how they'll get back. Lita says they can try to reach out to Maeve, but the issue is sending isn't really working, so we'll see. They can't teleport with the staff today, so they'll figure it out. Chetney asks if the toxin would be helpful. Keyleth says yes, it would be helpful, and asks if they have any on them. Chetney says no, but they'll get some hopefully. If they are successful, Chetney will throw in some wooden additions to spruce up the place. FCG asks if Keyleth has any gods to pray to. Keyleth prays to the natural world. FCG wonders if the gods leaving or being killed will affect the natural world. Hopefully they never find out. The party head outside of Keyleth's place. Lita says she wishes that she was going to be the one looking for the missing group, but she needs to stay with Keyleth. Orem says it's hard to see her like that. Lita agrees. Most look up to her for her strength, but most haven't seen her since their return. They ask where Lita was during the fight. She says she was about halfway up the dig site. She asks where they were. They say they were at the bottom, and the ship falling out of the sky was their idea as well. Lita is impressed by this. Lita wasn't teleported away, and says that things got very violent after that. White flash. Chetney asks if she fought the red creatures, the Rhyoli. She asks if they know what they are. Imogen says the Rhyoli. She says those things fought with the Vanguard. Did she see a white light? Yes, she did. Was Ludinus and the rest of the villains there after the light? No, they were gone. The party apologized for asking questions, but they have been dying to know what happened there after they were teleported away. She says the Rhyoli didn't speak with words, but they did bleed, and some were very fast and quick, and some were big and strong. She says they retreated at this point. If the party was still there, they would have brought them back to Zephyrah with them. The party find comfort in hearing this. Fern insight checks her to see if she's leaving anything out. Fern then asks if there's anyone here she believes might be a mole. Lita says she doesn't want to think of that right now as a possibility. They need to trust each other, especially now. Imogen asks what the Grey Valley is like. Lita has never been, and gets someone who can actually answer the question. She gets Thallo, the human man that was with her before. He tells them that it's marred by the Scattered War. It is a place with demonic essence and dark spirits after a deal was made during the war. FCG asks if they need gear. Lita says they'll give them everything they need. Orem says that he needs new armor. That should be easy enough. Ashton asks Thallo about his expertise in history. He says he's a master of trivia and lore keeper, and he gets real nasty on trivia night. Ashton then takes out the helmet from the museum and asks if he knows of the Ashari. Thallo says they were a cult that claimed they wanted to reclaim the power for the Titans. They used the Ashari name to gain followers. They took over a town and blew it up 20 years ago, dabbling in strange magic. Orem says he wants to see Null, but wants to get her other daughter back first. He wants to see his own mom as well, and then get new clothes. Ashton wants to see a seamstress as well, to fix something new up. The party head to Orem's mom's place, or Orem's place. It's a small halfling home. He knocks on the door and opens it to a 60-year-old woman, or a 60-year-old-ish female halfling. She has a big bright smile and hugs Orem immediately. She says it's good to see him. Orem asks how the family business is doing. Alma says that it's going well. Orem then introduces the party. The party head in. It is very cramped for some, especially Fern, but some of them have a nice time, like Chetney and FCG, because they're small. She goes and gets the party some pastries. FCG is keeping an eye on Fern to make sure she doesn't steal anything. She says she would never. Someone's mom is off limits. Orem says he doesn't know how widespread Keyleth's state is, so they should keep it on the down low. A bit later, they smell freshly baked goods as Alma returns with pastries. Alma asks how long they're going to be here for. Imogen says not long, unfortunately, but when they get back, they'll come back around and spend more time with her. They ask how things have been. Alma says they're trying to keep the kids calm. She's aware of Keyleth's injuries. Lita comes by and tells her a bit too much, maybe. Fern asks Fern asks, as Alma is a midwife, if she's ever helped give birth under the red moon. She says they try not to with all the superstitions around it. Imogen asks if there's kids due soon, not for the next month. FGG asks about what Orem was like as a kid. She says that he got into trouble and wandered off a bunch, but he's made her very proud. She tells him to not be a hero if he doesn't need to be. He says he'll do what is called for. FGG asks if she has anything from when Orem was a kid. She has his booties, and she goes off to get a few things. She brings back his blanket and his booties from when he was a kid. They are both tiny. He asks if they need his yearbook to embarrass him even further. He then says they need to run an errand for Keyleth and might be gone for a few days, but when they come back, he asks if he can stay there. She says his room is always there for him and can make space for the others, but the party say they can sleep at an inn to give Orem and his mom some time together. They take some muffins. FGG wants the recipe to make them later. Chetney gives Alma a wooden statue of Orem and says he's quite the warrior, she should be proud. It says C-pop on the side of it. She says it's like his old toys. She brings out some more, and 4 other toys say C-pop on them. Chetney seems to have made a bunch of toys from Orem's childhood. Alma says that she'll cherish it, and says it's a great reminder of her son from a handsome man. FCG looks to see if Chetney might be Orem's dad, with a perception roll that's terrible, so he can't tell if there's any similarities. Imogen then does the same and gets a whisper. We never hear the answer to this. I imagine it's a no. The party then head out to a weaponsmith / armorer. Torf is a human that runs the place. He looks like a dwarf, but isn't. Torf is working as they come, and they see some flashes with each strike of his hammer. As he strikes, he then puts sage and herbs over the metal and magic over top of it as he places it, so it doesn't leave any spaces in the metal. He notices the party and says he knows Orem. Orem says it's been a while. He says Orem looks a lot stronger than the last time he saw him. Orem thanks him, and he says he and Ashton need new gear. Toph says he was told about an expedition and is assuming that means him. Orem asks for some more coverage on his arm for his shield arm. Torf says that can be done. Ashton asks if he does some cloth work. Torf says that Fanny Z is what they're looking for, or who they're looking for. Ashton then makes their way to Fanny Z. Inside the store is a mid-30s human female with beehive hair and with just an absolute metric fuck ton of makeup on. She asks if she can help Ashton. Ashton says they're going through a life crisis right now. Fanny Z says, aren't they all? And feels that Fanny can help them feel like a champion and wants a hint of that in their outfit. Fanny Z says that's a lot. They need a bit more. Ashton then hands her a bunch of clothes. She asks if he wants a anti-hero chic. Orem says a legendary hero but fashion. She'll do what she can. During all this, Laudna is flying Pate like a kite. Pate says he's a bit nervous as there's a big hawk circling. And after that, there's no more business to do in town. It's time to go find a flower. They find Maeve near the place they first entered the city. There's a few Tempest blades there to see them off. Maeve thanks them for what they're doing and is happy to help in any way she can. She pulls off a big backpack that could even fit Orem inside it and says they'll want to fill this bag up with the blue flowers before returning. She then pulls out 2 healing potions and gives it to the party. She'd offer more, but most were used up in the last dig site battle, and they need to keep some here. Lita steps up and says to Orem he'd be very proud of him. He being Will. He hugs his sisters and says see you soon. Orem turns to the warriors nearby and holds up a sword, and 24 warriors do the same back to him. Maeve then looks to the massive cherry blossom tree and pulls out a blue petal and says this is what you're looking for. Maeve says there's not a lot of color out there, so it should be easy to see in the distance, and then hands it to the party. She then opens a doorway in the tree. Through it, they see almost a black and white monochrome nature behind it, and the party run through. The party step through, and they step on the crunchy ground in the center of the gray valley. Gray skies, colorless leaves, basically the exact opposite of Zephyrah. It's a very dense valley forest with white leaves on it. Imogen asks how they're going to find the flowers. FCG says the Changebringer could guide them. The valley is on an angle to the point where they can see a grass field off in the distance. Orem looks for the mountain of Zephyrah, or that it would be on, and he sees maybe it's outlining off in the distance. The party look for any blue in the valley. Orem, with a 30, doesn't see any right now. They don't know which way to go either. FCG casts Divination and asks the Changebringer to point them in the direction of the flowers they seek. FCG then tunnel visions on the Changebringer coin. They see hair move past their face, and a hand grabs the coin in the middle of it rolling around Orem's shield and stops it pointing west. Lana says that's genuinely the most impressive thing a god has done that she's seen. Lana looks for birds of prey. She sees many birds in the skyline and some very large flying predators. Chetney sniffs the air and gets a 15 roll, but then must roll a religion check. The roll is good enough. The smell he is smelling is a charred wax scent. This scent usually accompanies a fiendish creature that crashed through the veil. It seems far off, but he gets the sense that an extraplanar entity is here, or maybe many. Chetney warns the party. Laudna pulls out Pate and asks if he is a fiend. He is. Laudna tells him that they might run into his kin and asks to keep an eye out. He turns invisible and leads the way west, and is to look out for flowers and any of these fiends. Laudna holds Imogen's hand and wargs out. They're going to be sneaky and go in a single file line. Orem, Chetney, Ashton in front, Laudna and Imogen in the middle, and Fern and FCG in the back. Stealth checks with pass without a trace, the lowest being a 17, the rest were all above 20. Then a survival check from Orem, only a 15. They walk past a group of trees that look to have been hit by a lightning bolt and torn apart in the middle. They aren't sure how long it's been there, or how long it's been like that. Maybe it's just a sign of the area. As they walk, they see a metal dome that seems to be sticking out of the ground. It's been there for a while. Chetney looks it over and sees ash and dirt on it. He doesn't see any traps. He digs away at it, at the sides. It seems to be a helmet. He grabs it and there's a skull inside. Orem can't tell how long it's been there. Chetney pulls it up and the skull falls out. There is a body below it. They can see a cleave mark on the back of the helmet. Laudna checks in on Pate with a perception check of natural 1. Laudna reminds him to focus. FCG says to Orem they have to get him back to his mom and cast Death Ward on him. Orem thanks FCG for this. As this happens, they hear a growl come from above and they all take cover. They see 2 large flying birds. The party then take a moment and it doesn't look like they've been noticed. Laudna gets a little irritated at Pate for this, as he was supposed to be on lookout. These things are massive, a wingspan of 15 to 20 feet. They leave a trail of black smoke behind them as they go. Another survival check of 21 from Orem. They come to the edge of the tree line and can get a better view of the valley. Chetney climbs up on a rock and sees what looks to be an old fire pit. He smells a volcanic ash smell. He looks to the side and sees trees smoking. This is in a southwest direction. He tells the others they think it could be magic by the druids as a signal. Laudna uses Pate to scout out the area ahead in the direction that Chetney pointed to. She looks through his eyes and sees smoke coming through the trees, not the ground itself. There's no blue or Ashari druids in sight from Pate's eyes. They question if they're going to head over there or not. Chetney looks to the ground and sees what look like dead grass, but it isn't sure if it's actually dead or not. It might just be different grass. The group spread out and moved toward the smoky trees. FCG casts Enhance ability on Fern for Wisdom. Group survival check. Chetney 18, Laudna 5, FCG 16, Fern 11, Imogen 12, Ashton 11, and I didn't hear Orem's, but I imagine it's probably pretty good. Eventually they get to the darker trees, and they smell burning wood. There's a faint orange glow beneath the bark. Chetney puts his hand out, and there is definitely heat coming from it. FCG casts Detect Thoughts, but doesn't get anything nearby. Orem looks for footprints of people passing through the area. 25 perception check. These trees seem to be in a patch about 200 feet across. There are no tracks. Some of the trees have been broken as if something heavy with heavy movement or able to cause a lot of damage came through here. Orem wonders if it was caused by some sort of infernal creature coming through the veil here. The party choose to leave and go back westward. After a bit, they reach a ashy marsh, muddy ground difficult to move through. New stealth checks. 24 from Ashton, Orem 11, Imogen 6, Fern 20, FGG 16, Laudna 17, Chetney 27. There was no pass without a trace. It wore off by this point. They get through the marsh with no real issues. They get to solid ground again. They reach a forgotten battlefield with armor and weapons sticking out of the ground all over the place. The party think about the deaths and the battle that happened here long ago. Orem sees a rock with black charred sections of obsidian crystals coming out from it. Orem then sees behind it what seems to be something blue. Laudna sends Pate over to look. 13 perception check. He sees dry bones, bodies, weapons. It's very spooky. Crazy coming from him. Laudna tells him to find the blue thing. He asks for what blue is. Laudna asks if he's colorblind. Blue is the sky. Pate realizes he is colorblind. The crystals on the stone look like a hand coming out from it. It's about 100 feet away from the party. Laudna tells Pate to go there and finds the flowers. He lands on it and says it's thorny. Pate perception check of 9. The coast is clear. Chetney then stealths his way up to the stone. Pate is invisible and says hi to him, creeping Chetney out a little bit. Chetney investigates the rock. Natural 1. Seems safe. He climbs on it and sees there is a crack in the rock with a bunch of blue flowers with black patterns and a screaming face in the middle. These are the flowers they're looking for. Chetney begins to cut some of the flowers out. As he does, the party move about 60 feet away from the stone, just to make sure. Chetney has a bad feeling and uses his Hunter's Bane check. He gets another strange feeling from this. Orem sees 2 armored bodies begin to crawl around a bit ahead of Chetney. They have leather armor on, not the same age as the old helmet they found earlier. There is now a shadow on the hill watching Chetney. It has yellow eyes and horns on its head. Chetney has cut out about 6 flowers at this point, and then stops and looks and sees Orem's face, and then looks past. It sees that he's looking past him. Chetney sees the shadow he begins to slowly move away from the stone. It stands up, it plucks its fingers, and the armored figures stand up and begin to run toward the party. Roll initiative. Initiative rolls are FCG with a 17, Imogen with a 15, Ashton with a 13, Orem with 11, Chetney with 11. Orem goes first, he has a higher dex. Fern with a 9, and 7 for Laudna. First up are the zombies. The creatures run toward Chetney. One tries to grapple Chetney. It has a natural 20 beating Chetney's dirty 20. Chetney sees that they are undead, and they are very recent. They seem to be elven and half-elven. One seems to be male and one seems to be female. FCG is up. They move towards Chetney. FCG casts Compulsion on both zombies. They both fail, making them both move toward the muddy river. One takes Chetney with it, but that causes it to move at half speed. Imogen is up. Imogen holds out her hands towards the shadow. She visualizes water and casts Watery Sphere. Strength save, natural 17 plus more. It is not restrained by the water. She then pulls a zombie into the mud with a telekinetic shove. Natural 20, so it actually is not pushed. It stays exactly where it is. The shadow is up. It looks to Imogen and sees the rest of the party behind her, then sinks into the ground and reappears right near FCG and Orem. They can see the shadow a bit better. It has no face and exposed ribs with a creature inside screaming. It raises its hands and spins. The air is pulled out from the party's lungs. FCG, Laudna, Orem, and Fern must make saves. Laudna fails, 38 damage. FCG fails, 38 damage. Fern passes, 19 damage. Orem fails, 38 damage. That is a way to start a fucking combat. Ashen is up. Ashen goes to their happy place and rages. I just love that. That was great. They run full speed at the shadow. They reckless attack 17 hits for 18 damage, and the creature fails a save. It is knocked prone. Ashen adds a chaos burst for another 5 damage, but there's a save on a natural 20, so there's no more things added quite yet. They then add a fire damage from the ring that they got, but it seems to be resisted only for 4 damage. Ashen then hits again for 19 more damage and pushes the creature 5 feet away and then backs up. Orem is up. He runs for Chetney and jumps over Chetney and the zombie and does a disarming attack. The zombie takes 11 damage and fails, dropping Chetney. Orem hits again for 8 more damage. Orem looks to see if this is a member of the Ashari that they're fighting. It is. He didn't know him well, but he did know of the man. Chetney is now up. He rips open his chest and goes full werewolf. He then turns his claws to ice and runs toward the shadow, but one of the zombies hit him as he runs away, dealing 8 damage. Chetney then saves on a saving throw, so he doesn't get anything else added to it. Chetney then hits the shadow creature twice for 23 damage total. Fern is now up. She casts Aura of Life, making a 30-foot radius aura, so 60 foot across diameter. Anything in there is resistant to necrotic damage, huge, and can't have their max HP reduced. Fern then looks at the shadow and says, stop it, in Infernal toward it, and then she summons Mister. Laudna is up. She casts Mirror Image on herself. She then summons her Hellhound, popping out of her chest, and for the first time ever, the other half of the party get to see this. She then sends it to help Chetney. Laudna then moves back. The Hellhound is up. It hits for 14 damage. At this point, 3 more spectral wraiths come from the shadows. They move to Imogen Ashen and FCG respectively. One attacks Imogen but misses. The next one attacks Ashen. They take 11 damage and must make a con save. Roll 10, but it doesn't matter. The aura that Fern made makes sure they don't lose HP. Max HP. Ashen then grabs it and opens a portal and sends it 30 feet away from them, using some of their weird new shit from their weird barbarian class that I desperately want to get my hands on. Does anyone know where it is? I want to see it. The last one then crits on FCG. Laudna then silvery barbs it, changing it to a 19 so it no longer crits on them. Thank God, that would have hurt. Still hits, however, for 19 damage and a con save of 18, and they're in the aura anyway, so it didn't matter. Everyone remembers that at this point, the aura makes them resistant to necrotic damage, so all the damage I just said was halved since Fern put it up. The zombies are now up. One pulls out a longbow and shoots at Fern and misses twice. One attacks Orem, hitting once, dealing 9 damage. Orem then riposts for 15 more damage, and the zombie misses its second swing. FCG is up. They cast Spiritual Weapon near one of the zombies, hitting for 7 damage. They then Sawblade a Wraith nearby, but miss. Imogen is now up. She moves her Water Sphere over the Wraith that was sent through the portal and restrained. Ashen holds out their hammer and tells Imogen to shoot a spell through it so it can refract. Imogen's kind of worried about this. She casts a lightning bolt at 4th level on the shadow on one of the wraiths, choosing to not refract the magic through the hammer. Thank God, that probably would have been terrible. The Wraith fails, but the Shadow saves. The Wraith takes 29 damage, and the Shadow takes 14. The Shadow is up. He falls into the ground again and appears behind Fern. And claws at Fern twice for a 27 and a natural 20, dealing 23 damage from the first hit. Concentration save 16. She keeps her sphere. 24 damage on the second crit. After FGG takes some of that away, because it was a much bigger hit before, and then FGG took some of that away. It then spins again, doing its AoE attack. Fern, Chetney, Imogen, FGG all must make con saves. Chetney saves, taking 7 damage. FGG saves, taking 7 damage. Imogen fails, taking 13. Fern saves, taking 7. Ashen was also in there, and they took 13 damage from this, because they fail. Ashen is up. They walk up to the Wraith in the water, and hits with their first one for 19 damage, and then hits with their second one for 21 damage. Orem is up. He runs to Fern and switches places with her, adding AC to himself for the bait and switch. He then attacks, 28 to hit, 9 damage on the hit. He then hits the second one for 6 more damage, and misses the third, and then after the Action Surgeon hits the fourth one, and then does a goading attack for 13 damage. Orem, near its ribs, sees if the person inside is Ashari. It is unfortunately another Ashari member, Fira. A lot of people were worried it was Fira, but it wasn't. Matt made that clear, because she's not she's not a fire genasi. Chetney is up. He jumps over and tries to grapple the shadow monster, and then beats it on the roll, so it is now grappled. Chetney then slashes for 15 damage. He then attacks again for 9 damage. Fern is up. She casts Daylight near the shadow. It hits the creature, and they see most of the shadow is on empty space of a skeleton. The other raids and zombies take cover from the sunlight as well. Mister with a Flaming Seed hits for 7 damage on one of the wraiths. That might be one of the best Flaming Seeds we've had all campaign, because Flaming Seed sucks. Laudna is up. She sends Pate into the water sphere and twin spells Shocking Grasp on the one in the water and one of the wraiths nearby her. Hitting both, critting on the water one, dealing 14 damage on the water one, killing the wraith in there. 7 to the other one in front of her, killing that one as well. The Hellhound is up and it runs for the shadow. It attacks and deals 11 damage. The shadow makes a strength save and saves, so it is not knocked prone. The last wraith attacks Fern and misses. The zombies are up and they run up to Fern and attack her. Only one hits until Laudna uses Silvery Barbs. However, the Silvery Barbs didn't help. The roll is still 17, which is Fern's AC, which still hits. It does 12 damage and Fern goes down and the life aura goes away. FGG is up and they cast Mass Cure Wounds and heals everyone for 16 points of healing, except Laudna, who gets full points of healing due to some of her weird abilities, and Ashton doesn't get any because they didn't need any. Fern is okay. FGG then uses their spiritual weapon on the last wraith, natural 20, 23 damage, using some of the temporary hit points to add some of the damage to it. However, it is still alive. Imogen is up and uses Witch Bolt on the shadow, hitting for 42 damage, killing the shadow. It's about to sink into the ground and escape Chetney's grasp when it gets covered by lightning from the Witch Bolt, blowing it up, and its parts land everywhere. Imogen shoves the zombie off Fern, and then the group finishes off the zombies no problem, as the wraith went away with the shadow monster. After Orem looks for the body that was in the shadow, there's a bit of material left of the shadow and sees a blue glow within. He reaches in and finds a faint spiritual energy. He holds his hand out, and the soul changes into an elven woman form, and then looks west and then vanishes. FGG says they should gather their things for their families. Chetney says to put their bodies in the hole. Firo is looking west. They collect the rest of the flowers that was inside the stone. They put the personal belongings of the Ashari in the hole and they put the bodies to rest. The party find a place to rest for a bit. They see smoke off in the distance in the direction they are heading. They change some magical items up to better suit the situation, as Imogen can't use the staff for the next day, and Chetney wants to use the butcher's bib. At this point, the episode ends. And there you have it, episode 66 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role. I like that they're going on a fetch quest. It's sort of something different to break up the tension from the Ruby Vanguard and Ruidus. It is still a little bit tense because it's sort of based on how our emotions are for Keyleth, and we want her to get better. And we also want Orem to make sure that his sister-in-law is okay. I am so glad that Matt didn't do another one of the... Very recently they fought a shadow creature that had a druid inside of it, and they were able to pull the druid out. I'm glad that didn't happen here, because that would have felt a little too samey. Instead, the creature, or the spirit inside was already dead, which is kind of nice to me. It's not nice, but you know what I mean. It's not the same. I do like this Gray Valley. I think it's really cool. And I like that Matt sort of took Keyleth off the board and then has given the players agency and putting her back on it, instead of just her eventually being okay and coming back to it. I like that the players have direct agency in her coming back. I think that's great. I think that's excellent, and I'm very excited to see where this goes. Overall, fun episode. I really enjoyed this combat. It was a lot of fun. Definitely like the whole aesthetic of the Gray Valley, like I said before. So I'm very excited to see what happens next week on episode 67. Until then, I'll see you guys later on Tuesday for whatever video I make next. Probably won't be a best of video because that video did not do well. I think that just shows me what my audience is, or what people like is Campaign 3 stuff and maybe a little bit of Campaign 2 stuff. So I'll stick to that. And I got a few videos brewing up here. But without further ado, I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Peace.